What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Bless, and you are locked into the Moment of Truth podcast. This week, despite having my co-host with the most, Let Me Know, I have a very special guest in the building, a longtime friend, a big brother, a mentor, a guy that literally, for one reason or another, has been along my violent ragdoll of a ride in the music business. Patrick Guay from Evenko, aka Pat Rec. Let me get it.
AKA Black Lung, AKA Dark Science.
The soul brother number one in the building. Pat Rec.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, man.
No worries.
Yeah. Let me just start by saying that when I made a list with Lemmy and our producers, you were one of the first people that came to mind.
I have no idea why that would happen, but
well, aside from being the guy at Three Amigos on the cover of the hour of the best of the best,
the Mirror
was it Mirror Hour?
Okay,
Mirror, so best of the best. Pat was on the cover with an airbrushed afro and an Echo hoodie.
I kind of wish I had enough time to I have that somewhere at home, and I wanted to dig it up
at home
and just like bring it. So maybe you can cut to. Oh yeah, you do it live. But I was gonna say if this was like, whatever, you could cut to that photo.
We might be able to work some production.
Okay,
magic.
well I've got like a scan of that somewhere.
Is it on the Google?
It might be. No,
that thing the kids are using these days, the Google.
I don't think it's on the Google. I mean, it's way too. I mean, this is the beauty of this stuff. Like, it's like everything I did, like for the most part, that was in the public eye, existed before the internet. So like I used to play in this band called Slaves on Dope, and we were actually
Slaves on Dope. Slaves on Dope was a big deal.
And, we were, we won the Show Me Spree contest, and we like toured Canada a bunch of times, and it was a beautiful thing. And but for a couple years, but. Like there's no videos, there's no photos, there's no like I had some really, really bad looks back then, and I'm super glad that there's not a ton of photos out there.
You were saved from what was Vice's don't? Vice
Exactly. The Vice's don'ts. Yeah, I would have been there.
So to answer your question, the reason you were one of the first people that I thought of in my probably top 5 is because I met you when I'm like 14 years old.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, before Pat was working with Evenko and on the live side of things, which I want to get to that, he used to host a radio show, one of the first hip hop shows that kind of gave a voice to MCs like myself. We could come on there and catch Rec with Pat Rec and Orion on Off the Hook Radio, and we used to torment mentally ill people on the radio.
Oh man,
people would call pre-internet trolling. People would call in to fight with us, and we'd hang up. It was like the Howard Stern.
It was a scene, man. It was. I mean, it's funny that to think about those. And actually, a couple years ago, my brother, who for whatever reason, he just like taped everything. He's got like 20 or 30 tapes of
That's amazing.
Like all these old like episodes, and just listening to that, it was like, how did they let us on the radio? Yeah. It was like we just took the piss out of everything. It was like so guys would call up and it'd be like, it's like, hey, it's raw strimmered from St. Leonard, like it'd be like, yo, because we had a freestyle hour or whatever. It would be like, yo, I'm I'll cut you and whatever. It'd be like next, and I'm surprised some of these guys didn't actually drive down to the studio.
I was always thinking this.
There.
I was actually thinking, I go, yo, if these motherfuckers find out where we're
so
at,
obnoxious.
We're finished.
It was really.
Remember, dudes used to call from jail. Dudes used to call from the Bing and shit.
Yeah.
And if they were corny, we'd cut them too, like real quick.
Really, really like disrespectful stuff that was happening.
It was disrespectful, but it was something that I feel is missing these days because everything happens on social media.
Right.
Sense of community.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different time, and I still remember that cover you're talking about. Like I remember.
Explain to them what that is.
Well, so there used to be a weekly in Montreal that was like a weekly,
The Mirror,
like a alternative rag or whatever they called it, which was The Mirror, which was like a newspaper wrapped into 1 week, one edition that came out on Thursdays. And it was a kind of a big deal to be, if you got anything in there, it was a big deal. Yeah. And I remember Alistair, who was like one of the guys that ran the ran the magazine, called me up one day, and he was like, look, it's kind of weird because Shome has won best radio station for the last 20 years in the Best of Montreal, or best radio show or whatever. And it's like, for some reason, your weird, hip hop radio show that's 2 to 4 a.m. on Wednesday evenings, it like got voted best radio show.
We turned into a fucking party.
Yeah,
shit on
like,
people and played
it was like
dope independent hip hop.
Yeah, so like he was like, so I think we're gonna put you on the cover. And I was like,
which is so random, right?
Which is so random. And like, I like at the time it was like, well, yeah, of course you're going to put us on the cover, but like now, like looking at it now, it's
but it was
like,
a big deal because it was like 300,000 copies circulated in every subway station and every fast food joint. So it really like, it made an impact that I remember.
Press had an actual value.
Yeah, it was huge. It was like that would like literally break bands or acts or movies or whatever. So
he's on the cover in an Echo hoodie with an airbrushed afro, and I go to Three Amigos with my family to eat, and I literally see it hanging on the door because they got voted #1 Mexican restaurant, and it's this guy with the Jamaican gun fingers and the Echo hoodie.
Yeah.
And I called Pat, I'm like, yo, son, they got you up on the Wall of Fame at Three Amigos.
Yeah.
We made it.
They really did me with that cover, like to this day. Like Paul Labonte and people of that.
Shout out Paul 107.
Shout out Paul 107.
Shout out my man Big Mo, aka Big Dave, aka Mo Lavi.
Yeah, like these are the type of people that still.
Shout out Shades of Culture, D Shade, Orion.
I saw Orion last night.
Ushua, Lo Pesci used to come through with us.
Are they still performing Shades of Culture?
No, I don't. I mean, they've been doing like, I think they did like a 20th anniversary thing recently. Okay. I think they played Pop Montreal last year, but it's very like,
it's seldom
between. Like, yeah, I mean, like, it's like those guys are like, I mean, I'm turning 44 next month, so those guys are a couple years older than me. It's like borderline 50. I mean, there comes a time where you gotta.
You have a family and you have things to do.
Exactly.
And,
shout out Shades of Culture though, because they were the first English hip hop group to really lay a blueprint in Canada for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't realize Shades were real trailblazers because they came before, or at least at the same time as the Rascals, and at the same time or before anything bubbling out of Toronto.
Well, I mean, it's funny because those guys were basically my like gateway to almost everything in the music industry,
which is the segue I want to start it.
Right. Okay.
So I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to go semi-chronologically because it's going to become a wild ride here. So prior to me meeting this gentleman, why don't you tell us how you got started in this business, in the music? Because you've been in the business even longer than I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because I'm older. I'm sure if we're the same age, it'd be whatever. But
I will give you zero credit. Thank you for that.
So, I mean, it's funny because I was thinking about this today, and I was like, it's like you can, like, what can you date it back to? And it's like, I remember when I was like, 9 and 10 years old, like, like living in Toronto.
So
like
you're from Toronto originally?
I was born here, raised in Toronto, and then I've been back here since, like 25 years or whatever.
Early hip hop influences. Let's start there.
Well, it's like, okay, so like just to kind of bring it from, it's like I remember, like I used to listen to CFTR radio in my room, like when my parents would put me to bed, I'd like listen to the radio, and it would be like Hall & Oates, Genesis, like whatever, and I was just like
real
obsessed with music, and like I remember buying tickets to like this terrible show. It was like David Lee Roth, who was like the singer of Van Halen.
I remember.
Oh yeah.
Me and my buddy were 12, and like our parents for some reason let us go to Maple Leaf Gardens and go to the show.
Dope. That's dope.
And I remember like he had this jean jacket that had like all these band names that were listed on it. It was like, and I remember he had like this U2 patch at the back. And you're at a rock show, and you figure it's all good, but like these kids behind us were like, "Yo, U2, that's whack." Or whatever, like
you're a
like,
poser,
get that
like,
shit out of here.
yeah,
You're like,
exactly,
yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh man, what are you talking about? Like it's like like there's
culture was so
in your life,
much
like
different.
yeah, exactly. And it's like those things kind of like blow your mind open. So I mean, that was like my first real like
taste
show or whatever.
Music,
like yeah, and like a couple of years later, like going to see Neil Young and Sonic Youth at the Forum after I moved here. But then like everything changed in like 91, 92.
What changed
like,
for you? Who was your
it's
favorites?
like so starting to play music and playing in bands, and then discovering like like Sonic Youth and like Pavement and Dinosaur Jr. and these bands, and then there was like also the crossover of like Public Enemy and like NWA and like all this stuff.
Working
where it was like
Anthrax,
yeah, exactly.
crossover
There was all this stuff that was like oh, this is cool, but oh, this is cool too. And like you would read magazines and you would see like the dude from X band like
Rage
like
Against the
Slayer
Machine,
or whatever like rocking like a Public Enemy shirt,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, what is that?
Yeah.
And you want to know.
Yeah.
And like I kind of feel blessed that we grew up in like the pre-internet era where you had to do that
Had to do the research.
You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
You looked at that and you were like, okay, you were asking around. It's like, what does the logo mean? Like,
That's right.
what is this?
That's right.
Like, so like I was lucky that a friend of mine's older brother was a real like, he got into hip hop real early, like, like Bambaataa, like, all that stuff. And then, so like he was the guy that kind of like, like Schoolie D, like all those early records that like, you'd be like, oh man, like I can't, like,
He was putting you up on
mind-blowing
game.
stuff. So it was like at the same time that I was discovering like, Motley Crue, I was discovering Queen Latifah, and at the same time I was discovering like, like Fugazi and Husker Du. I was discovering, whatever, like Terminator X or whatever, like Cool Modi or whatever. So like, it was definitely like a whole learning experience. Like I remember like the first, like after we moved to Montreal, like in the same year, I saw I saw Joe Strummer at the Spectrum. I saw Public Enemy at the James Ling Auditorium. Which like, like I definitely was one of 25 white guys in there.
If 25, I would have said 1 of 5.
Yeah,
maybe
it was
10.
really like
What year
like,
was Public Enemy?
that was like 90.
90, 91. Couldn't
Yeah,
have been
something like
further
that. And it was like,
past
it was
that.
really like, they played there twice. One time, Flavor Flav didn't show up, and I was glad, like, I didn't buy tickets to that. And then, like, the year after, they played again, and he did show up. And, so it was just like this cross, universe
Culture
of
clash,
music,
yeah.
of stuff that, like, and at the same time, it was like, it was like punk, metal, indie, hip hop, like all this stuff was happening at the same time. And I was very, just young and impressionable. And like, at that time after we moved here, that's when Slaves on Dope started. So like that was like, 90, I think like 90, God, I want to say 92, could have been 93 anyway, or
Sounds
somewhere
about
in
right.
there. Like, yeah.
I remember hearing about you guys like before I even knew you.
It was
before
a
I
weird
even-
thing. Like we would go out and
The name's
just, like,
familiar.
Yeah,
Name's
just
100%
poster.
familiar.
Like everywhere, we'd drive to Toronto and just poster over everyone's shit. Put stickers up. Like this guy, like Paul Gott, this guy from the Ripcords, this local band who's like still exists to this day. Like he had this like sticker press where you get like 1,000 stickers for like $25 or something like
That's
that.
dope.
And there was like these like black square stickers. You still see them from time to time. You go out and like like
Has some
like
good
these
tape
bands,
on
like,
them.
there was like 100 bands that would go and get these things,
Yeah.
stick them everywhere, and it was like, and then all of a sudden people like gave a shit, and it was like, okay, like this is happening, and
Yeah.
it was a really like weird couple years where it was just like
How wild is that promo though? The fact that
Yeah.
you can like put stickers out and that's what your marketing campaign is.
Well, I mean, kind of fast forward to like anyway, that whole thing happened, and then we did a like Slaves on Dope and Shades of Culture, tie everything together here. We kind of became fast friends a little bit, and then we ended up doing a Canadian tour in 1994. So we went across the country. Just playing like, they had just done a tour the year before with Bad Brains, opening for Bad Brains. So like that was like, which was massive because like, I don't know if you're familiar with Bad Brains, but they're a huge like it was the first like,
Cult following.
black hardcore act to like break through, and like they had like a huge, like they would play for like 3,000-4,000 people in New York at the time, and it was a huge thing. Yeah. So they ended up doing this tour across Canada, and then we ended up going with them, and then that kind of like there was something in there that kind of like there was a few times where like the band, like the rest of Slaves on Dope, wanted to do something, and I'd be like, well, no, I want to go hang out with Shades of Culture. So like that, I think we might have done one more tour, and then I was like, you know what, this is not for me. And then
what did you do? What was your role in the band?
I played bass.
Okay.
I played bass, and I also did all the artwork and like like later on we'll get into that, but like I was also like I'd put together all the posters, and like I was a creative guy. Like I dropped out of high school, but before I did, like I got sent to one of those like like your class has 7 people in it kind of thing, like trying to
alternative school.
You sit on
alternative school. Exactly.
That's where Bless graduated.
Exactly.
From.
Yeah. There you go. Like, and
go to a normal school, hanging out with you till 4 a.m. on a Wednesday, doing a rap radio show.
And I remember being at that,
well said.
At school, just like using the photocopy machine, doing stuff on the typewriter and then blowing it up like 500% and like cutting it out and like putting it like like that's what I was like. That's
I still wear the first Plattenberg shirts you did as pajamas to this day, bro. With "Scared Money Don't Make Money" on the back.
That's right.
With
That's
like
right. I probably still
logo.
have that that file somewhere.
I actually have some shirts in the car for you for just to wear around the house for fun.
Wow. Okay.
I have.
The one for my daughter, like that I can like
a small one,
baby tee.
We can wrap her in it and sew the little sleeves. But so transitioning out of being in a band, I believe the first time I met you was probably through Shades of Culture and Jonathan, and that's a whole other fiasco.
Yeah.
But I think you were working at a label called Greenland. Is that correct?
Greenland still to this day is a concert promoter.
I know now, but
even back then, like, well, they did have a label. It was kind of like a punk rock label thing, and they put out the Shades of Culture record actually. But like, and it's funny because they had to deal with Cargo, and I worked at Cargo in the warehouse for a couple of years, and like, I'm just kind of glazing over a bunch of stuff here, but that was definitely like a time in my life where it was like very influential, and like I discovered a ton of music that like I wouldn't have discovered otherwise.
So I think the first time I met you, there was this cat named Jonathan. I can't remember his last name. I don't remember that was signing Shades of Culture with his partner Fritz, who was NSYNC's road manager when NSYNC was the biggest shit on planet Earth. And they bring me to Studio Victor in St. Henry, which is a legendary studio in the building where our studio is, right? And then they're like, yo, Bless rap for this guy Pat. And I'm like, who's this guy?
I feel like people did that to you a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people did that to me. I was like a
dance, fucking dance.
I was like a little jester,
Yeah.
And so they bring me to this crazy studio where like Celine Dion and fucking James Brown have recorded, and it was the nicest studio I had ever seen. Up until that point, I'm like 14, and I think I rapped for Pat. And I don't know whether he co-signed me or didn't. I can't even remember. But I remember after that day, Pat is just in my life for the next 20 years. Like, and like I didn't sign with this guy who introduced us. And it just like, this is why he needed to come on here. So
forever friend.
I mean, but the funny thing is that there was so many. Like, like you're kind of glossing over the fact that it was like that Chance who kind of brought you in to that whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like there was this kid Chance who had moved here from maybe Toronto, maybe
Northern Ontario, somewhere
maybe like
Toronto.
Orangeville or something.
Shout
like
out
that.
Chance,
Shout out Chance
aka
one.
Big Caesar.
I know Big Caesar.
If you want to look him up,
I did not know. I kind of lost. Track of him.
Yeah,
like
a lot of people did,
ago,
but shout out Chance. So Chance was a grown man who I was hanging out with, but we had a little rap duo.
Is he a heavy set guy? He's native, no?
He's dope. He's like part native, part black, part native.
Yeah. He battled in King of the Dot a couple of times. I've seen him live.
Oh yeah,
he's a decent battle rapper.
Yeah, so I mean, we haven't seen Chance in years,
Right.
But at the time, me and Chance had a little like rap duo, and I
Chance
was
and
like
I.
15, and he was older. But
You've been around for 100 years, this guy. No,
yeah, he was definitely
Yeah.
he was definitely talented, and still is talented. Shout out Chance.
He is.
So Chance brought me to meet Shades of Culture's people, who was this gentleman and another guy named Fritz and Jonathan. And
Yeah, it was a bit of a bootleg operation. Like, you know, like there was like you know,
Montreal
there was stuff
getting
happening. You know,
exposed.
like Shades of Culture actually had stuff happening, and it was, you know, legit. Like there was like a full like Backstreet Boys tour that they had
Yeah.
done. Like
Because
you,
of
you
Fritz,
know,
I
like
guess,
yeah,
with the
exactly.
whole
Like
NSYNC thing.
like there was stuff happening, but it just never got out of Quebec. Like
Right.
like you know.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of stuff like that still never gets out of Quebec. I mean, like in 20, 25 years, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't changed there. But, you know, like that was enough to kind of start a company and, you know, try to find some
your
developing
feet wet.
acts.
yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like, so it's like, okay, so what else is out there? So there was a couple other things that, you know, the label had signed, and like, you know, Chance had come by. Like it was the beauty of having the radio show too was like, you know, it's just totally a testing ground for like, you know, it's like stuff that's coming up. And like I remember him coming in and, you know, just being like, wow, this kid's really fucking dope. And at the time, it was like a lot of that Ruckus Record stuff.
Yeah.
Like you could actually
Ruckus was a
put
big
out,
influence on us.
yeah, like
Lyricist Lounge
you could
and all
put
that
out
sound
you
bombing.
could put out like a super like boom 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 ka 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 ka, you know, one of those kind of beat
Company
records.
flow
And,
kinda
like, yeah,
shit.
exactly. People
Yeah.
would actually like give a fuck. And so, you know, that was like it was like, you know, it's like this kid's actually fucking got something. So, you know, fast forward, it was like you did sign him, and then, you know, I felt so bad for him because, you know, the guys that were running the label just didn't get it, and it was like
It was early too.
it was early, but it was also like, you know, like, hey, you know, here's these like 5 songs I got. It's like, okay, cool, let's bring them to the studio. And then, you know, the exact same 5 songs would get cut, and those guys would be like, oh, this isn't commercial enough for like, what's the single?
not
or
bringing
like
in a commercial
whatever.
artist.
And it's like, this is exactly not what we had, you know, discussed. So like, and I'm sitting there being like the, you know, de facto A&R guy, being like, sorry, I don't know what
can't
else.
do anything,
I don't
yeah.
know what else to tell you. But
So
like,
so shout out Jonathan. So he
Yeah.
wants to sign me, right? And he introduces me to Pat, a few other people.
What
at
year are we in,
studio-
Bless?
Huh?
What year are we in?
I mean, I was
98.
15, 20 plus years ago.
this is
Amazing.
98. I think this was 98.
98. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
98.
Yeah.
Because Sona was popping, and Jonathan brought me to Sona.
by the way, I watched one of the prior episodes, and the bartender's name at Sona was Mathieu.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. It all comes
We
full
figured
circle.
it out.
Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna divert that whole
Okay,
train
yeah,
wreck
yeah,
of the
sorry,
story.
sorry.
So he brought me to Sona for the first time. He come pick me up in a crazy ass car. He bought me an Averex. I was like living the life. I'm like, damn. I'm like, this guy really wants to sign me. I was taking the presents, you know, I still appreciate it. And then that same time I met Donald K. Donald.
Yeah.
And then like the people around me was like, yeah, I think you're gonna sign with Donald. Not this
It's
loose
like, oh, okay,
operation.
what's the track record here? Okay, what, he's got like a van down by the river, and Donald's got like, you know, 30 years of experience in the music industry.
So
Like,
early on, this is how my career first starts to develop. Rapping with Chance at 14 in the alley of my high school, literally in the McGill ghetto, drinking 40s at house parties. Shout out to everybody who was in the multiple, you know, alternative and delinquent schools that I went
Multiple malt liquors
to. Multiple malt liquors and multiple schools. And
multi-syllabic rhymes.
that is very astute of you, Levy. That is a real tongue twister. And then like at that time, Off the Hook Radio starts popping, and I start you know, messing with DKD, and they introduced me to Haig, who had produced Drinking in LA.
Vardsbedian?
Vardsbedian?
Yeah.
Haig had produced Drinking in LA for Brand Van.
Oh, wow.
Zubone.
Oh, wow.
Zubone was the label.
That was a big song.
Yeah.
And he
He's
was
getting-
actually a really good producer. And so, you know, Donald was like, we want to get like a professional package. And he brought me to Zubone Studios, and we worked with him. and my boy Raheem from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who co-wrote fucking Don't Push Me Because I'm Close to the Edge. So kind of I had those guys mentoring me in the studio to cut some of my first records. And then Pat was always in my life because I was going to the radio show every Wednesday to, you know, to freestyle on the radio. And then,
but we also used to host and like DJ at Sona,
of course,
you know, like there was always a bunch of stuff like that. Like, yeah, exactly. That was like the first time where, you know, like that whole scene, like Groove Society, like there was a bunch of stuff happening where it was like, you know, this scene actually has like a community. There was like, you know, like Ray, you know, like
who ends up producing
Red
my first album.
Like all these guys, all these DJs that were like, you know, we knew all of them, and like, you know, they would get us into all the clubs, and it was like, you know,
we all supported each other.
Yeah. It was cool.
And so as that's kind of developing, we're going to the radio show every week, and you know, the culture was definitely very vibrant at the time.
Like if you remember, sorry to cut you off, but like, you know, like the at CKUT, it used to be like there was a time for like maybe a year where it would be like, you know, 30 people deep in the studio.
Oh yeah,
you know, like people used to come by.
But hold up. So
what
about the time Chance wanted to battle me and we battled on Off the Hook?
I thought
it's on YouTube.
I think I have that tape.
It's on YouTube. Somebody did put that on YouTube.
That's amazing.
Shout out to Chance, man. Good times, good memories.
And he battled Dave One.
Yes.
Time.
And Dave One from Chromeo. Shout out Chromeo. Shout out P-Thug. For those who don't know, you know, those guys had audio research. So we were all, you know, kind of by defect early hip hop pioneers is what we ended up being. But to everybody, you know, who knew us, I guess we're just bums at the time.
Bless, you're the first rapper I knew out of Montreal.
Thank you, but I definitely wasn't the first rapper out of Montreal.
I'm just saying, that's where I started.
Just put it into perspective.
Yeah, but I definitely wasn't, and I knew I wasn't.
Yeah,
but it was a real pleasure and an honor, all jokes aside, to be around, you know, older guys who, you know, always encouraged me, never like pushed me to do stupid shit to be down, and he always gave me good guidance throughout my career. So thank you for that,
of course, and it was a really fun time to be, because I mean, like, honestly, like there was like nothing to lose back then. You know what I mean? It's like no one on the international scene or anywhere was looking at Canada as fucking anything. And like, audio research, when they got like a couple of their acts got distributed by Fat Beats, who were like the big distributor at the time, and I was like, oh shit, like total, like we were all like,
A-Track started to pop also internationally.
A-Track won the DMC thing,
and we were all kind of really close. So a couple legendary. So me and Chance battling. Me, Dave One, and someone else going back and forth. There's a tape of that too. Chromeo. So that's me and Dave One from Chromeo going bar for bar freestyle on like Jay-Z's first album on Reasonable Doubt beats. Like, there's so much history, bro. So much history. And, you know, shout out to everybody who used to tune in. Anybody who might, you know, be checking this out. You know, don't
shout out to CKUT, right?
Shout out to CKUT.
Exactly. Didn't do that one yet.
Still going, man.
And definitely don't be shy to drop some comments below. You know what I'm saying? And let us know kind of, you know, what your favorite moments of Off the Hook radio might have been. And anybody who has any old footage or audio, definitely let us know.
Man, like Dusty Digital right
what
there.
What about the time that the show Insomniacs from Comedy Central came and covered the show?
Yeah.
And they put us on Comedy fucking Central, bro.
That's right. Wow, I completely forgot about that.
See, the show was kind of a little more big. It was more of a big deal than I think we realized.
Because I haven't really, like, it's like occasionally I think about that, but it's like very rare. And like, you know, it was just such a moment in time. It was like, you know, 3 years of my life that, you know, you would, you know, just do something because, and it was like, it was tough to like be like, man, like you'd wake up at midnight. We used to meet up at the bookstore next to Biff Tech on Saint Laurent and just smoke cigarettes and like, you know, like brown bags of beers and like, exactly. And then like, you know, you walk over there and like by the time you get on the air, it's like you're just like kind of like just like you don't give a shit, and exactly. You're just like telling guys to fuck off, and like I literally thought, like I said before, it was like there's got to be a time
somebody's
where,
gonna come up here with
you know, like, you know, some Haitian dude
You're gonna have to
fucking
scrap.
wherever is gonna like just walk in here and just blah blah blah. Like that's gonna be it. And that's
Thank God it didn't.
And that's okay.
But
I
you
mean,
know
like,
what though? There was a certain honesty in what we did because if you were good, we let you rock.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it was equal opportunity. And if
a
you
lot
were
of those
trash,
guys were like, we'd meet. You know, remember those guys who would be like, come down to the studio,
Yes,
and it'd be like,
yes,
I can't
yes.
remember what's his name was, but there was a guy that like actually got on.
Oh, yeah?
like he got on like someone's record. I forget who it was,
Nice.
but it was like just a rando call.
nice.
Like
That's what it was, man. That was the culture. It was all equal, and you just spit your shit. And I remember some of my proudest moments in high school. There would be a big house party. I would go into the house party. Come on, how do you like this for a teenage chick to get chicks, right? You go in the house party. You put the radio show on full blast and you call in. You're like, yo, Pat, let me rock from the house party. Get out of here. Nobody could compete with that.
yeah,
So-
Yes, very smart move.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So, moving on. So I did these demos with DKD, and then like to make a very long story short, I end up, linking up with Guru. He signs me, and I remember
Yeah, we got to talk
sitting
about that
with
one
Pat.
Guru story. I'm sorry to cut you
Hold on
off.
now. We're gonna get to that.
we'll get to that.
This is an even crazier
There's a
story.
long there's an arc of
Fair.
There's an arc. So from Zubone, I somehow managed to get my demo into the hands of Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit.
Well, didn't you do some shows or something like that?
I was
Like-
actually signing
was that
with
after?
them. No, that was before Guru.
Okay.
So I had my first deal. A lot of people don't know this about me. Was with Fred Durst's label. Fred Durst had a label deal called Flawless with Interscope at the time, and Limp Bizkit was the top of the world. And Fred had brought me out on tour. And I was on the Anger Management tour with him and Eminem
Right.
and Papa Roach and Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, I remember
which is
that.
interesting
Like-
tie-in because I never gave a fuck about rock bands prior to this, but now I'm
Right.
kind of reliving his juncture
Yeah.
of where those worlds collide.
for sure.
And that was a major stepping stone in the business for me. So of course, one of my OGs, I was like so excited to share it with him, right? So I'm like, yo, when I come back to Montreal, I'm gonna come by the show and I'm gonna tell you like what happened on
And
this
play, and you had some like I remember you were like, yo, like Lethal's got like a studio
Yeah.
in the bus, like we're
Yeah. Shout out Lethal, Soul Assassins, fucking Lethal. A lot of people don't know that Lethal from House of Pain is the same Lethal from Limp Bizkit.
100%.
Still to this day.
A lot of people don't
Like,
realize.
they played our festival. They played the Heavy Festival this year.
Oh yeah,
the same guy.
Did you get a chance to talk to him about
No,
this?
no,
Oh, you should've,
they
man.
kind of came in and came out.
I still kind of loosely keep in contact with them on
Okay,
IG.
yeah,
and
but he
shit.
was there.
Can
It was
I
like,
give you one, guys? The first record I ever bought it with my own money was the first House of Pain album.
Yeah, I mean
That was the
that's
first one I ever
history,
bought,
man.
91,
They were
I think.
real
Yeah,
trailblazers. So
Absolutely.
Lee, so Lee goes from producing fucking Jump Around, which is like one of the biggest. Like I think that and
Yeah.
Informer are the biggest
Bar mitzvah songs ever.
of all time. And you know what? Bar Mitzvah song equals big publishing, so
Right.
I don't think
Fair,
they were mad.
fair.
And then he has this next ridiculous run where they become the biggest fucking rock band at the time.
Yeah.
And, Fred brings me in the fold and he's like, yo, you and Lethal are like soul brothers. And I'm just going to put you guys on a bus and they have a studio and see what comes out. So it was
Right.
me, Lethal, who's the DJ producer, and John Otto, who was the drummer. And we were just making like dirty hip hop. Right? And then so Fred's like, okay, so like, when am I gonna hear, these massive chart toppers that you guys are? He thinks they're doing like a Limp Bizkit album with a 15, 16-year-old Bless, and we're doing like really underground sample-based hip hop where I'm spitting my eyes out and there's no hooks.
Right.
And Fred,
It's like a big L record. basically.
literally, it's a
Like,
Big L record. I want it to be a Big L record at least, right? Not at least. I'm saying like that was my idol.
Yeah,
so
of
like
course,
that
yeah.
was like I'm like if I could make some shit that sounds
Remotely
really
like that,
golden
yeah.
era New York, and this is 98, 99, right?
Right.
So this is that time, Ruckus and Sound Bombing and Big L.
You're coming out of it. It's like the tail end.
Yeah.
No? Like 50
No,
cents
that
next.
kind of
no?
like I like 99. I think might have been the peak year for Ruckus. I could be wrong, but I remember that.
I was
like,
in high school. I remember that, and they were releasing those
yeah,
mixtapes
it was
constantly.
like they could do no wrong. Like it was like Black Star.
Oh, yeah,
Def,
forget about it.
Like yeah, it was like quality.
In fact, when we would go to Sona for those hip hop nights after the open bar,
Yeah.
they'd be playing "Still Getting Mine" in the 199, right?
yeah,
I was all sound bombing,
Huge.
back
Yeah,
to
yeah,
back.
yeah.
And this is the M's emerging, and M comes out of that sound bombing whole thing. So everybody wants to be on that ruckus tip. If you were like really hip hop aficionados,
For our younger
like
viewers, go check that out. 100%. That's
Yeah,
a big
yeah, I
one.
mean, like,
'Cause
maybe,
those sound
like,
bombing
come on.
albums, they were great.
Come on, Run the Jewels LP comes out of Company Flow again. Sound
yeah, but
bombing,
I
goes-
think that there's a disconnect there. Like I think that like
People don't even realize.
like, it's really weird. Like it's like I mean, this is a whole side note. Sorry to
okay.
Go to work.
Like like last year I was in Toronto for something, and I was like like the agency that I do a lot of business with, like they were like, oh, we got Lord tonight at Air Canada Center where the Maple Leafs play, like the arena. I'm like, okay, cool. Who else is playing? It's like, oh, Run the Jewels is opening, and I'm like.
LP from Company Flow.
I'm like, I mean, we've had them on the festival a bunch. Like, we'll get to that later. But
Yeah, you
it's
said the
like,
festival. You.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get
I
there.
spoiler,
We're
it's a
gonna get
spoiler.
there,
grazed
guys. We're
over
gonna
it,
get
but,
there.
like whatever.
We're
but
gonna
like,
get there.
But,
We got a big
it's
player in the
it's
house
like,
tonight.
I've seen them 100 times, but like I was like, why are you on the Lord tour? It's like Lord, as fantastic as she is, it's like 16-year-old white girls love Lord.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. So what do you think the tie-in was from? Like,
Well,
an agency
I think that she needed something that was like a little cred
Edgy.
to open.
And for them, let's be honest, we know why they did it. It's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
They're,
exactly.
spreading
And
the gospel.
it was amazing to watch them just go out there, and they're so funny, and they're so,
I'm so happy
candid,
for them.
and they're so it's
I'm
amazing.
so happy for them.
It's amazing.
I feel like
to see
if like
guys
when I
from that
watch Run the
era.
Jewels, it's
Yeah.
like watching you get on and do your shit for the love of it. For when I say for the right reason, because they don't need this. They're doing it because they still enjoy it.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
To me, that's art.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't want to deviate too much yet.
Like just
So Fred comes on the bus and he's like, okay, like let me check on my
giddy up,
investment.
like
There's famous stories of me like there's footage of me like destroying people on tour. Like he would introduce me to like Carson Daly or to
But you would have a little bit during the show, wouldn't you?
I mean, they would let me really like mostly I was working on my album, but yeah, they let me like jump on once or
Right.
twice. But I didn't have
Ever
like
seen
a
a
set.
video of like just
Yeah.
being like come out and do,
Yeah,
like
just a little
freestyle,
something.
like, yeah.
But I was really like on there to be Fred's battle little pit bull that he
Right.
would let off the leash when we were getting drunk. And there was a night where it was like Exhibit, Carson Daly, Howard Stern, and Ben Stiller.
Golden
in a-
State Warriors.
In a room, yeah, I can't make the show. In a room no bigger than we're sitting in. And then some of the guys from boot camp came
Oh
in.
yeah.
And they,
But which guys though? Which guys?
it wasn't it was Ruck
okay.
from Helter
So
Skelter.
it was actual legit because they had that whole
No, it was Ruck.
extended
It was
family,
Ruck.
like
It was Ruck.
It was like
Ruck.
anyone from Black Moon or
It was Ruck from Helter
like that.
Skelter and some of his younger guys. And
Evil
I mean,
D maybe.
Evil D wasn't there, no.
Okay.
But it was
Sorry.
it was Ruck and some of his boys, and somehow they were like messing with some people Fred knew, and he was like, "Yo, go back and forth with Bless," and he made me go back, and it wasn't a battle. We weren't dissing each other, but it was like heavy bars,
Right.
And it was like Bless loses his deal if he doesn't hold his own against 6 of them.
Right.
It's just me and 6. And and I'm the biggest boot camp fan, but I think I did okay that night. I think I did pretty well. Fred seemed to be pleased, and I just understood
You got to stay on the bus.
that when he let me off the leash, that I had to go. So
Right.
I represented. I rapped my ass off. I spit my heart out. I gained whatever little props I could on the tour, and then so Fred comes on the bus like, okay, what you guys make? And he just looks at Lethal and he's like, this is really hip hop. Like, where's the hooks?
Right.
And I'm like, you're gonna do the hooks. Like literally, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he's like, yeah, I'll do 1 or 2, but like they
Right.
all need to have big hooks. And I'm like, I'm not stupid. Like I'm a businessman at the end. I'm like,
Sure.
no ego. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever you want, as long as nobody rewrites my verses.
Right.
Change the beats.
And you just got a couple hooks out of Fred Durst.
Yeah, like it was always supposed to be. It was always that was the game plan that like the first single should have Fred on it,
right.
and that was
Sure.
gonna be my thing. And anyways, whatever ended up happened, and that was a whole other story. So I come back to Montreal, and there's this big write-up, and I'm gonna find that on the Google. There's this big write-up about, and I'm like 16. I look ridiculous. I have no facial hair. I have a little like haircut with little curls and a fade. I
can see it.
I look like I'm from the
You know
reality
this guy.
show
Oh,
Growing Up
yeah,
Gotti.
yeah.
Remember Growing Up Gotti? That's when I had that haircut.
Okay.
I looked like Jersey Shore before Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And then there was this big fucking article on how like I'm, signing
It was
with Lim.
Cha, wasn't it?
Exactly, Cha
Yeah.
Dunleavy.
Yeah.
Shout out Cha Dunleavy
Still
from the
doing it to
Gazette.
this day?
So he gave me my first big feature. So I'm all excited. I come back to Montreal, and Pat's like, yo, let's go for lunch. Do you remember
Yo,
this?
dude,
we
where did
went
we
to
go?
this pasta place. Actually, around the fucking corner from where we're filming right now, P. Because you used to live over here, right?
Yes. It was on like Saint
Charrier.
Denis and
Right over
no,
here.
it wasn't Charrier. It was like Pine.
Roy
Yeah.
and Saint Denis.
No, it was Pine.
It was a pasta place.
Yeah. It was like a choose your own.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. I know
So
exactly.
me and him are having lunch, Lemmy, and I'm telling kind of like this story that I just told.
Yeah.
And a woman gets up who's eavesdropping on our
I
conversation
completely forgot
and
about
comes to our table and says, I just want to let you know, you sound ridiculous. You're a pathological liar.
Wow.
She was listening to me tell him about the tour.
Fred
and what
Durst, and she's
happened.
not believing any of it.
And she's just listening in this quiet
This
restaurant, and this psychopath
Yeah.
comes to our table and starts telling me off.
That's too good.
Because I'm
That's
telling him the
golden.
true story of my fucking tour with Limp Bizkit.
That's fucking great.
And he's flabbergasted.
Oh
He's like,
man, like I'm like
did this
I
just
cannot.
really fucking
Yeah.
happen?
Oh my god.
And
I
this
can't-
would set a tone for the
I
rest
just
of my
like
life.
literally my mind just fucking blew right
So this
there,
would
'cause,
set a
like,
creepy tone for the rest of my life of me being the Forrest Gump of rap music after that. It was the unbelievable stories.
Well, I mean, so it was shortly after that, the Donald O'Donnell thing.
Yeah.
I remember like it was like the team there, like it was Luc de Bouvry on there, was like
There was a few people at the time. There was Lenny. Of
Yeah.
course, Lenny
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there.
yeah.
There was Lenny. There
Awesome.
was Parkside Mike, and there was Awesome, who
Awesome.
was based in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so basically, they decide that it's time to put out Bless's first solo project, which ends up becoming Plattenberg the Movement. Because I kind of like was waiting to see what was going to happen with the Fred Durst situation. And then when that didn't end up taking flight, I kind of met Guru like randomly 6 months later.
Right.
That's a whole other episode. So now I'm really excited to share it with him. And then they're like, okay, Bless, well, find somebody you want to do your album artwork and your layout, or we will. And I'm like, oh God, no. Let me find the guy, because he needs to be hip hop, because I would only trust one man's eye. Pause.
so okay.
So I reach out to this gentleman.
Yeah. So at the time, I had just finished like I was out of the music industry. I was like I
remember that. You're like, I'm done. I don't want to do it.
I was chewed up. I was spit out. Like I'd worked at like Cargo,
wanna do it.
Greenland.
Yeah, you didn't wanna do it.
I was like this is not for me. Like I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gone back to school for graphic design, like because that was like one of my true I
Early talents.
knew that I had an eye for it. I didn't
Good for you.
know exactly how to put it all together. So going to I decided to go to school.
Yeah, let someone who's done it before show you how to do it.
Yeah, and it was weird because not to toot my own horn at all, but like it was like one of those things where like you go to a school and like they're teaching you stuff you already know, and they're giving you 95s on every, and I'm like, okay, I appreciate this. It's like there's a few things that I get here, but at the same time, it's like, okay, it's like whatever.
It's like Trebas for someone who's already mixing
yeah,
albums.
exactly. So it's like, and
You were past
so
that.
I went for a year. It was a 3-year course, but I just did the first year, and then I got a job at some random like Chabanel bullshit. Like, just like, like they paid me crazy money and I hated, I literally like took.
Are you saying the Bless
bus.
album might have not been the big money gig at
No,
the time?
but the Bless album might have been the gateway to everything else I discovered in the rest of my life. Like that. That's what I'm saying.
If my name could be sprinkled in there, I'm a happy man.
Well, so like I had this job, and it was like, I was like, fuck, how old was I at the time? I don't know. Like it was probably like, 28. I was like making like $75K a year doing graphic design.
I'll take
the
job. I'll take it now.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like, okay, this is really good.
Yeah.
But I literally wanted to shoot myself in the face every day. That I
remember you being very
office.
uninspired, and you being like, I don't even know if I want to do it.
Like guys would walk in and be like, okay, so see this Billabong like collection? It's like, so take that and replace Billabong with,
whatever brand.
Surf Bro or whatever.
Oh, they
and
were
I'd be
straight
like,
doing them like China
okay,
styles.
that's cool, but how about we do, whatever? And they'd be like, how about you take this entire collection and just change the name to Surf Bro? And I'd be like, okay, well, sure.
Be happy one day. You
exactly,
really had
exactly.
something.
So I lasted about a year doing that, and then Lenny calls me and is like, oh no, we had already done. At that time, we had already done the 12-inch. We had already done a few things, and then Lenny called me. It was like, "Hey, listen," and like at that time,
because Lenny was the one you were dealing with to proof my first drafts of the Plattenberg layout.
Exactly. And at that time, like I also had some some personal money come in, and whatever. I like bought that condo and whatever. Like it was like I didn't care so much about the money at that time, and like I remember Lenny calling me and just being like, hey, we got a job for you, we could pay about like a third of what you're making right now. And I was like, I'll take it.
I remember we were doing grant applications for my album,
that's right.
And I was sitting in the office and they asked me, what about your boy Pat who did all the graphics? And I was like, yo, Pat's dope. Like I totally was happy. And I wanted them to hire you so I would have more access so we could do our shit. You know what I mean?
And that whole thing, like literally, like I remember just being like, okay, sayonara, fucking Chabanel, and just being like,
good for you. It wasn't.
So
your
for
heart
those
wasn't in
who
it.
it wasn't there.
For those who don't know, like who aren't necessarily from Montreal, so DKD was pretty much the only big record label in Quebec at the time on the English side. There was a lot of French labels, but they were the main player for English music.
I'll give a like.
And weren't they booking too? Weren't they?
Well, okay, so
they
this
came
is
from
a booking
the
agent afterwards.
This is the thing. So okay, I'm gonna like I don't know if you've read the Questlove book, but like it's incredible because his manager gives these like he writes the book and then his manager gives these like side notes of like either what really happened or his perception of what really happened. And sometimes these things are like a full paragraph
on the side of the page,
on
like
the side,
just my account of
exactly.
We'll do that one day. You write the book and I'll do the side notes.
Sure, yeah. But in this particular instance, so like in 1998. Like for between like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, Donald K. Donald was the biggest concert promoter in Montreal and was part of the like Canadian mafia with like Michael Cole and a bunch of guys who were like, it's like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. Like they ran the roost. Like you could not book a show in Canada.
This way before
Rolling
Evenko.
Stones,
like,
exactly.
Et cetera. It was like you do not fuck with these guys. So like in 1998. Donald got an offer from House of Blues, who was like in Toronto, was like the major promoter. He bought out like
not the venue though.
No, not the venue, but part of the venue. Okay. But like he had
exclusivity on the Montreal Forum for all concerts.
Right, he was Evenko before Evenko, right?
Well, this is the thing. So he sold to House of Blues, and then part of his deal was he could not promote a show anywhere in the world for 10 years.
So he starts signing new music.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when
genius.
So he had Aquarius Records back in the day, which was like April Wine, shout out April Wine, and
Corey Hart.
like Corey Hart, like a bunch of stuff. And like, so he decided to put all of his efforts onto the record label side of things. So like he signed like Sum 41. He signed like like Serial Joe. Like he had actually like there
That's
was a
the
ton of
summer
stuff.
I got signed. Exactly.
It was a
there was
roster
that
at
summer.
that time.
There was a ton of stuff that he was able to sign that was successful, and like he basically moved all of his efforts from the concert side
Exactly.
onto the label side of
Right.
things.
And then me and Pat happen to be close. Pat does a lot of graphics for me. They like what he did for my project, and they're like, what about Pat? We want somebody in-house. And I'm like, yeah, bring Pat on so
Yeah.
me and him could keep working, and he gets a steady paycheck. It's a win for all of us.
Yeah.
So he starts working at my record label, and keep going.
Yeah, so that was like, so
That's what brought you back into the game, right?
well, yeah, exactly. So that brought me back to the game, and that was like, 2004, and
So he did all the layout, my album covers, booklets of 12 inches, posters, stickers, merch, you name it.
yeah.
He did everything. So he was the only guy I trusted because I knew if he did it, it wouldn't be corny.
we
You know what
had
I mean?
done like I still remember this hilarious photo shoot we did at the it was at the St. Paul Hotel.
Yes.
In their conference room.
Yes.
And like it was like okay, and I was like, here's the vision, man. We want to do. I mean, we had discussed it or whatever, but like I was like, what we should do is like it needs to be like boardroom style. Like get a couple thugs, put them in suits. And it's gonna be like you at the head of the table kind of thing. It's gonna be like
That's the
platinum
album cover.
I mean, like. It's like this is the time where it was like Nostradamus and like
Jay the Rock. Like,
yeah,
like
exactly.
all
It was
Power
a
moves
time.
was the
It was
theme
corporate-
of what we were
corporate
trying to
business.
do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and like I remember like the Platinumberg logo was like a direct ripoff of a like there's a
Federal Reserve note.
well there's a money like there's a logo on the U.S. Money
Like a
that's
stamp.
like it's about this big.
That stamp with the eagle.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That
And
stamp.
I got that professionally like scanned. Like it was like, 2,800% scanned or whatever, just so I could like actually like retrace it and redo it and like, manipulate it enough that it didn't look exactly the same kind of thing. But that was the logo. And like, I remember we had a really long discussion about how everything needed to look like it came out of New York. Like it was like not from Canada. Like all the money was from the States. Like, everything was grimy enough. And like, it's like you couldn't tell that anything and it was no knock on Canada. It was
No, you just don't want to brand it as
like
like a Canadian artist because then you get
yeah, exactly.
You
No,
get
it was
Like-
well branded, especially for the time. Like everything was clean. The videos were clean. The artwork was
mean,
dope. The 12 inches.
Bless.
was dope.
We've had this conversation before, and I think we've had it maybe on camera, but I'll say it again because you haven't heard it.
Right.
But I bought that album without any prior knowledge of who you were. I just went into HMV and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, this looks awesome.
Right.
I'm gonna
this
buy this.
motherfucker did the layout.
Yeah,
That's on you.
We got into so many fights about it too, because it was like I remember, and like that's the thing too, is like you want to be kind of challenged a little bit, where and like, but it was like we'd have conversations where it'd be like, I'm like, I have like, it's like that cannot be. Like, no, we can't do that. What are you talking about? And I'd be like, I'd show him, I'd email it to him, and then we'd call each other, and it'd be like, I cannot, in good faith, let you do this, like kind of thing. And it'd be like, I'm quitting if that's what you're gonna put. And he'd be like, okay, I see you're serious about this.
I'd push him
but
just to
we'd
the edge, yeah.
have these conversations, and it was literally like, and that's what, like in retrospect, what it was like, it was fucking annoying sometimes, but like in retrospect, that's what made it so good.
Yeah.
It's like, like years later, I mean, it was probably like at least 2 or 3 years later, we did the Book of Bless record, where that might have been the thing that I spent the most time on ever, like, and I go back and look at that record now, and it's just so well done. Like, it's like every inch of that whole thing
it's been
is so well done.
It's been
Guys,
Like,
the
14
rapport.
years since the first record got released, and weekly I still have people I've never met sending me comments and DMs
Right.
that Book of Bless is a classic, like putting screenshots of the CD like in the comments on
It was
Facebook.
good. It was a good CD. It was a good looking CD.
Man, so you know what? The one thing is I trusted his eye, and at the end of the day, if I had an idea, I would definitely only chill out for him because
Right.
I
Well,
knew he was good.
Yeah,
at
I
what
mean,
he
like,
did.
like that was the thing that kind of like kept us, connected over the years. But it was funny now, like, like that DKD thing turning into whatever. It's like now working for Evenko, like, it's like there's so much lineage like
There's so much
between
lineage.
like
Right.
all these things where like, now like looking at it like in 2019, it's just like it's hilarious to like,
Well, it's
be
cool.
sitting here and just
And
be
you
like
know what?
talking about like there's like a million things that like we could bring up that like I'm like
Wow.
Yeah, I want the
You
guru
know, like-
story. Speaking
Oh
of a million
my
things,
God.
I want
Oh
that
my
guru
God.
story.
So there's
I'm
a
gonna crack a beer.
yeah. So there's a little transition here. So
I need
in
that
that
story.
time when we started putting together my first album, I was always with Guru. So Guru would come.
Oh, we haven't even really touched on Guru. that
We
much
haven't,
at
but
all.
but I would. So Guru would be like, "Yo, who's doing your graphic shit? Like, who's your man?" And I'm like, "Yo, he's my boy. If you need anything, I'm sure he'd be down to do it."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Hey, Guru wants you to." And he's like, oh, "Okay." Like, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, now you don't mind to do the work, you know?" And he ended up doing what, a mixtape for Crumb Snatcher. Shout out
Yeah.
my boy Crumb, and some other, whenever Guru
I did
needed stuff.
at least two Guru mixtapes. Like I remember he used to have the most hilarious email address. It was like, like T-Mobile 4397
I think I have
net,
I think it's
dot,
Guru Productions Inc. at
No,
AOL
it was
or something.
even before. It was before that.
I'm gonna find
It was
it.
some random like it was like when you could like send an email from a pager or
shit.
something.
Okay.
Oh,
like
at
that, like-
Skynet.
yeah.
I
And,
just like that, Bless, you were willing and able to get your guys who helped you
Oh,
in the
bro.
past and give those hookups because
My boy was doing the graphics. My DJ, quite sane, was DJing for
Yeah.
Guru on tour.
Right? That's
my
pretty cool.
producer Ray was doing tracks for me and Guru because, like, I trusted his vision because I wanted to work with him because I know he's good at what he does. Guru trusted my vision to be like, yo, if Bless puts his name to it, I know it's not.
but
gonna
it's
be
a
corny.
testament to what kind of businessman you are that you're able to share your resources because like
I enjoyed it.
our
Yeah, it's
Why would
fun.
I want
It's
to work
great.
with somebody
Like,
I don't
yeah.
like? I
You
didn't do it
developed
as a
those
favor
rapports,
to him.
but what
I
I'm-
thought it made a lot of sense.
what I'm saying is you develop those rapports and then you're able to share those rapports because like you're an artist, Guru's an artist. At that point, it's like some people, they want to keep all their people close and in their pocket, Derek for real style. And you're like, yo, I have talented friends. Let's
For me, it was always about what's best for the project.
Yeah.
And I knew that Pat would make it look the way it needed to look. I knew Sane could rock the crowd and bring us out properly. And that was just the bottom line. So why find some rando from New York or you know what I mean? I just would tell Guru, trust me, I got it. You know what I'm saying? And he'd be like, all right.
Although I will say that there was a few times where like Guru called me up and be like, "Yo, okay, so the mixtape, is like, yo, I want to do like me standing on top of like the Empire State Building," and I'd be like,
Oh, fuck.
Photoshop's not there yet.
"That sounds like a terrible idea."
Yeah.
How about like whatever, and like honestly, I'm not even that proud of the work that I did with Guru, just because like it was
He didn't maybe let you get the
yeah,
have as
exactly,
much
like it
brain.
was like he really had a vision for something, and it was very
Vague.
yeah, it was just like it was very like 90s street, like like Canal Street, like like
and Pat wanted to do like clean, progressive stuff for the time.
because at the time it was like you had like
People making money.
well, I mean, also you had like a bunch of like stuff, kind of like not unlike when like back in like the '93 when like you had like Judgment Night, where it was like you had Helmet and like Rage Against the Machine and
Right.
there was Cypress Hill and like all these people. It was like in that time it was like hip hop. Like was starting to kind of get bougie and like into design and like like so you wanted to kind of streamline
with
things
that.
a little
Yeah, you
bit.
wanted to
Like
keep
it
up
was
with
like
that.
why don't you want to have like like not have like some like Kool-Aid guy exploding through the fucking like the
Basically,
wall
he
as
didn't
you're
want
like
to do shit that looked like a mixtape, even if it was just a
yeah
mixtape.
exactly, like why don't we
wanted
have
to
this
make
like
it look
super
like a
clean
legit
and
album.
nice and like fashion or
Yeah.
like whatever, like
And in
it's a-
retrospect, I'm very happy that I listened to you
Well, I
because
mean,
the shit still looks clean. It's
yeah,
in my
exactly.
studio to this day.
like like that to me was like, you should, you should expand your vision a little bit. And like Guru, like, he was very, mindset into that kind of like, raw dog, like, ghetto kind of thing. And that's fine too. Like it worked out, but like, I definitely would have loved to see him go in a bit of a different direction.
Well,
the funny thing is that like not Moment of Truth, but when Greatest Hits record,
Full
clip came out, it was like they finally embraced that.
Well,
like,
I think what it was, in Guru's defense, maybe he looked at the mixtapes as a one thing and the albums as another thing. So maybe he didn't want to break your head or complicate shit.
Maybe.
He was just like, yo, just a simple mixtape cover like the Canal shit for that project.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe.
Because I definitely saw him really paying attention to detail. If it was like Jazzmatazz, all of that shit was really top
of course.
tier.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just like,
Depending
I
on the
don't want to
project.
bust your boy's balls too much.
Yeah,
you know?
fair enough. But I mean, like, it's like I definitely like
He tied your
had
hands
those
a little on
combos.
those
Like, and that's fine. But I still was like, super, like like the fact that I was able to work with Guru and like,
It's a
like
big one.
appreciate it. Like, it was like just be able to like hang out with him a few times. Like I remember that that Spectrum show, when they did and the Moment of Truth tour.
Yeah.
And that was just massive. Like that was huge. Like that whole record, that whole thing, like was just.
And this is like just the year after. This is like
no,
a
it's
year.
even before. I think it was before. It was like the Moment of Truth came out in like I want to say 98.
98.
So it was
I was gonna say 97 or 98.
Yeah.
Tour,
So I started running around with him just after the Moment of Truth.
Yeah,
campaign.
exactly. Yeah. And I remember
Good
like
timing, bro.
like shooting the video in like old
Crazy
Montreal, like in the
My first
the
video, My
elevator.
Time.
Like no, it was Talking to Me.
Well, Talking to Me was at the end because the label wouldn't
Oh,
clear it because the guys that was all
right.
business, but it was My Time / Talking to Me. But technically, you guys could check it out on YouTube. Bless My Time featuring Guru. The video's there.
Yeah.
And definitely, it was a brotherhood, and it was all, cats that were creative and young coming together for the right reason because we just loved hip hop and we were passionate about the movement. And it was a great time and a special time. So, moving out of that, I really want to talk about, because me and you had a great conversation at Osheaga this year.
Right.
We were kind of in the back, and we were talking, about a lot of the stuff as we were getting lit. And I was just like, I was so proud and happy to see you end up where you not just deserve to be, but where you belong.
Right.
Right? Like if we talk about your lineage from Greenland to Slaves on Dope to Shades of Culture to doing the graphic thing with me to DKD,
Yeah.
you're a very versatile guy.
That's a fucking rap sheet and a half, homie.
Obviously, I gotta sum it up for
And
them.
we're only a quarter of the way through here.
Yeah.
We might have to do a part 2.
Who Pat from Evenko is not just this cat that I know from back in the day that happens to work with this huge company, but this is a guy who, like me, really paid his fucking dues.
Yeah.
And really, I think you have a unique perspective more than most people because you've seen this business from so many different angles.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and that's
from
fair to
being in a
say.
fucking band
Yeah.
to having a radio show to doing serious graphic design for even clothing companies and shit
Yeah.
to working at labels to now the business goes from recorded to live.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no secret there that the business is in live now.
Yeah, for sure. And the funny thing is, I spent, 7 years at Arts and Crafts, the record label, which is like, I don't know if it's familiar to this listener group, but like,
Let 'em know.
we did like, Feist and Star. I managed to spend
Those are
Stars for a
big-
little
those are
while.
big
Like,
groups. That's a
broke
big
social
deal.
scene, like, and they still exist to this day, and they're
course.
doing a ton of stuff, and like,
course.
one of the premier indie music labels in Canada, and
Hell yeah.
if not North America. So, that time too led me in so many different, was able to not only connect but also reconnect with a lot of the people that like I was doing stuff with Shades and Slaves and stuff like that. So, and even now, there's booking agents and whatever that like back in those days I used to deal with that I'm dealing with now.
Yeah,
It's such
it's
a
definitely
small world.
it's a small world. It's a small circle,
Yeah.
and I just feel like this is what we were talking about backstage at Osheaga. Like that, I was so happy to see him be where I feel he needs to be. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I got like it's like I like to say I got lucky.
What is it exactly? Maybe you
also,
could explain. What is it
was gonna
exactly
say-
you do at Evenko?
Right. So I'm with a team.
First, what's Evenko? That's number one.
Well, okay.
For
So
those that don't know.
Evenko is a concert promoter based in Montreal that also does. We do about 1,600 shows a year in Montreal, Quebec City, Halifax, Moncton, St. John's, like all the East Coast.
They're hands down the biggest company in Quebec for live music.
Yeah, I mean, we do we're owned by the Montreal Canadiens. We're, our office is at the Bell Center. We do everything at the Bell Center. We also do the summer festivals like Osheaga, Heavy, Ilsonic, and we've got a food festival called Yoli. So like there's a ton of different stuff that we, kind of run the gamut. We also do, it's not just big stuff. We also help develop, all
mid-range
kinds of
shows.
acts. Like, like from 25 people, like 100 cap stuff.
Which is
up
so
until-
important, right?
Like,
Which
yeah,
is
of
so
course,
important.
of course. And a lot of people think that we don't do that because they just see us as like, oh,
The
you
Bell
got
Center.
Pink and,
Yeah.
like all this stuff. And it's like, no, we actually do spend a lot of time making sure these artists do get developed from like a really small club level, and like not just it's like literally like we have so many different genres of music that we help develop from like from all walks of life,
Of course.
and it's and that's the beauty of it, like.
And I
you're
think
not-
that's something like you guys doing that is so important because I think now, with the era that we're in with, social media makes or breaks everything, that it's important that artists and bands still get developed.
Yeah,
And that
of
there's
course.
companies like you guys who still have an interest in saying this act is talented. We're willing to work with them until they can get to
Yeah.
a point where they can, play a Bell Center or at least open a Spectrum or whatever.
for sure. Like,
So,
or maybe you just get to the
serious
point.
props for that.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
it's
maybe you
important,
just get to the point where you're headlining Corona for the rest of your life, but like that's
which
okay
isn't too
too.
fucking shabby.
It's not too shabby.
You know what I'm
but,
saying?
like,
You're
there's a
still
lot
gonna
of-
make your bread.
Exactly.
Still gonna
But
make your
there's a lot of
15,
acts that it's like that's the thing that a lot of people don't see or realize. It's like like a lot of these acts, like they just tap out at 1,000 tickets across North America.
Can I ask you, as being somebody with such an extensive knowledge of the behind the scenes of this business, what do you guys look for? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this. They want they want to know, how do I get on Evenko's radar?
This is the,
You gotta know
What do you guys
Bless.
look for?
the funny thing. We were just talking about, like, I was at this. There was like this folk alliance.
Do I have
thing
to
that
do
was
folk
like,
music?
No. I'm just saying. I was just saying there was this conference that was in town last weekend, and I had to do like this speed dating thing where like, and I have to got to do a couple of those a year, kind of thing, where like you sit down and like every 10 minutes there's someone new in front of
Doing
you
a
and
presentation.
like, and they're like, here's what I do, here's my band, here's my CD. Yes, there's still CD, but like yeah, like yada yada yada, like what do you think? And
Here's
it's
my-
like
Here's my USB bracelet.
yeah, sure, like whatever.
Here's my integrated skin
People are
chip.
getting creative that way, but yeah, it's like that. You still like.
Can I inject you, Mr. Guay?
Sorry to cut you up, but I saw Sticky Fingers has like a big black thumb on a USB drive, and it's like cut, and the bottom is a USB drive, and I'm like, that is fucking.
That's
dope.
cool.
That's good.
That's good
That's
marketing.
good.
It's like a dirty thumb.
That guy might get signed one day,
That's Sticky Fingers. That's Sticky
He
Fingers.
might go somewhere. But I mean, is like the thing that like it's like the thing that I tell everyone, and is like it's never changed. It's like the thing that people are looking for is really good songs.
Mhm.
No matter what genre you're in, if your songs are good, someone's gonna notice you.
You know who said that that always resonated? Nardwar did an interview with Pharrell way back, and he was asking Pharrell, because Pharrell got his start messing with Teddy Riley and Blackstreet,
Right.
and he said, what's up with Teddy Riley? And he said, Teddy Riley's done Michael Jackson. He's had smashes. Then his whole studio burnt down, and then Nardwar said,
Right.
what do you think's next for Teddy Riley? And he goes, Teddy Riley's a musical genius, and talent will always find a home.
Yeah.
That's what Pharrell said about Teddy Riley. And I love that you said that. I think genuine talent and people who are passionate about art will always figure out a lane for themselves.
I couldn't agree more. And like, that whole...
I'm just saying 5.
Okay.
Keep going. We good.
All right.
We good.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this.
Should I take a bathroom break?
You think?
Like I definitely feel that like there's a, especially, like this day and age, like the kids these days, it's like, it's about the look and the whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it's like at the end of the day, it's like what people like, it's like, it's the beauty of Spotify and stuff like that, where it's like, it's like people listen to this stuff, not for, it's like what they're seeing or the, what brand of
it lifts the veil off the bullshit.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Cool,
like,
you have these followers. Cool,
Yeah.
you wear these Gucci pants.
Whatever.
But like, is this music resonating?
Yeah,
with the public?
exactly. And like, like I always like, like my New Music Friday, it's like I listen to every single song that is like suggested for me by Spotify. And
Smart.
I'm like, yeah, it's just like, and there's been times where like, there's this kid Novo Amor from England who like, a couple years ago was like, I was like, this is fucking great. Like I went to his Facebook page. He had like 35 followers. He had a Gmail address, and I was like, you're great. If you ever come to Montreal, let me know. Never responded. But then like 9 months later, an agent from Paradigm like responded to my email that whatever. And he was like, hey, glad you're one of the first guys to catch on to this. I'll let you know when there's a show.
Your ears to the street. You're making sure.
Exactly.
But you see,
Like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's rare because he's been on so many different, sides of the table in this business that these are the kinds of people you hope get to the positions
Yeah, but I mean, like,
where they can actually facilitate.
I mean, at the same time, it's like, it's like I'm at a great company that's got great bosses and stuff like that. And I've always been like the type of guy who's like, I'm a really good like second line right winger. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be the boss.
It's a team.
You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be whatever.
You play your
But I mean,
position.
like yeah, exactly. And like the downfall of a lot of guys in this industry, unfortunately, is when they feel that like they need to be like it's like
ego through
you
the
need
roof.
to need to have like the company in your name or like whatever. And it's just like like just play your position, man.
Yeah,
Like,
let's make
that
some.
is, like,
let's make some great songs. Let's do some great projects.
Yeah.
Let's put on some successful events.
Yeah.
And rinse and repeat.
Exactly.
And everybody will have their turn to have their props.
Like there's no reason that
let's just do it.
yeah.
My godfather said years ago, he said, everyone tries to get up the ladder until they reach a point of incompetence and then they have nowhere to go but down.
That's true.
So you never want to get to that point where where you're past your actual
Where you're played
capabilities.
out.
Well, listen, I think that Evenko is a very well-oiled machine.
Oh, yeah, for
and
sure.
and I think that, it's just great for them to have people like you who've been so passionate about the scene since the early days.
Yeah.
Working. So what is it like? What are your, what do you do?
What's
at
your
Evenko
responsibilities?
Exactly. What's
So
your responsibilities?
it's like I said, we're a team of like 8 in our booking department, and we, just constantly look at and evaluate and book, and like, it's like it moves so fast that you're just like literally like it's like
they throw you some files.
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
get
It's
these
just like
done.
okay, we need to get
Basically,
get this up,
whatever
get
whatever
this up,
needs
get
to
this
get
up,
done, it gets delegated.
But the beauty of the festivals is that you can like we've got like a couple meetings a week where we can sit there and curate and like make sure that like
it's the right fit.
it's the right fit for everything. It's like we like a lot of these festivals, they book by slot. So it'd be like, okay, so 3:40 on Tuesday, I need like an EDM guy, like whatever. Like we book our festival like purely based on like feel, and like we don't want to have like conflicts. We want to make sure that like every single act on
Is
our
that an
festival,
issue? Sorry to cut you off. Is that an issue?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like
Really?
there are certain people that are like, I need my slot in order to confirm. I don't care if you don't know what's playing against me right now. I just need to know where I'm playing.
That's right.
And I'm like, well, why don't you just trust us to like let you know that you're gonna
We're gonna
play
fit
against
you
us?
in where you need to
exactly,
be.
exactly.
We're not trying to work against
to
you.
make
We
sure
want the
that
show
you've
to be
got the
great.
best chance to succeed. And like, there unfortunately, you know, you've got to come to heads like that from time to time. But like we definitely spend a lot of time trying to perfect what we do. And like, you know, I'm lucky that now, you know, it's like this will be year 13 or 14 for Osheaga, like, you know, coming on like, you know, to a successful brand to hopefully just like help in whatever way to kind of keep it, you know, keep the momentum.
Well, because the thing is, you know,
maintained.
I think a lot of people, sorry to cut you off, don't realize how much, you know, planning goes in to these events, right? If they're not in the business. Like I see Pat when, you know, when we're backstage or whatever, whether it's Osheaga or Sonic, running around like crazy, and like it's this mega event. It can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
He's holding it down. He's killing it. But you know how much time went into making sure that things don't overlap and completely become a clusterfuck.
For sure. I mean, like, you know, it's like
That's something I don't envy you on that.
We've done our
on that
job.
weekend.
Like,
I don't envy you on that.
But by the
weekend,
time the festival rolls around, we've essentially done our job. Like we've got like, you know, a small army of incredible humans that are running this thing, and I'm like I'm amazed every single time I like get on site, and I'm like, oh my god, how did you make this look so spectacular?
And there's a couple former DKD people there too.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Shout out Jackie.
There's another one too.
Pat.
Well, I mean, Pat Sandrin's like, you know, he's a marketing. You know, he heads actually the whole brand experience.
Literally, I'm at Osheaga
like,
to see this guy. I'm like, where's Pat? I want to have a drink with him. Oh, he's very busy. And then it's like everybody from my old record label.
Yeah.
Like, well, everybody's here. It's great. I love it.
Small town. Yeah, of course.
What's the feeling like when the show's over? Like how much of a grace period is it? Like you won the Stanley Cup and like you're taking a month off?
It ended in a tent.
No.
We're all in a tent.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that
I'm curious what that feeling is.
It's like, so there's 3 weekends of the summer. So like there's the Heavy Montreal weekend, which is the weekend before Osheaga.
Amazing, by the way. I love that one.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then there's 77, which is the punk festival. That's like 77 and Heavy are the same weekend.
Right.
And then there's Osheaga the weekend after. And then there's Sonic the weekend after that.
Crazy. And you're all 3.
We're all 3. Yeah. We're there, like, you know.
And
like,
he's there on the front line on a golf cart with a fucking walkie-talkie,
we're you know,
like putting out fires.
Oh,
but I mean,
right wing, second line. I was listening.
Yeah. I mean, like that's, you know, that's just part of the gig, you know. So like once the whole thing's done, like you take a week or 2 off, but then you're back in it.
Right back in the swing.
Like, you're like, okay, what's the lineup for next year?
Exactly. And like it's getting to the point now where it would not surprise me if we had 5 acts booked for 2020 before 2019 happens.
Before the show even fucking happens.
And you know, I ask these questions, guys, because I know that there's so many young cats who, you know, think this business is glamorous, and it can be sometimes, but I want people to understand the reality that if you want to be in this business, it's a profession.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know, being a doctor. You don't just, you know, you've been doing this for 20 years, bro. And that,
more
and he
than that.
worked
25
professionally,
like,
I'm saying, working in the business of music in some capacity. And then, you know, finally he gets to where, you know, he needs to be. And that's like a lot of people always had this misconception of this business.
Oh, for sure.
That it's a get rich, you know,
it's a very sexy business to be in, and like, you know, I get it why people want to be in the business.
On the night of,
like,
it looks really cool.
Oh, for sure.
But the whole year that you guys are sweating and you're dealing with, you know, you're putting out fires, you're dealing with temper tantrums, you know, and then just the logistics are a nightmare.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, I definitely admire, you know, how much fucking, you know, passion that you guys must put into.
Thank you for putting on a great fucking show, because I've been to a bunch of them.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting on one of the best festivals in North America.
Like, you know, our boss is Nick and Dan, like they, you know.
Shout out Nick Farkas.
Yeah, for sure. Like they.
Shout out Duncan.
Shout out Duncan, head of production.
Another old school.
Yeah, for sure.
Old school Tokyo
No
crew.
doubt. Exactly. Yeah.
Shout out
like,
Dan, shout out Trevor.
These guys, I mean, like, you know, it's like I've been lucky for the last, like, you know, 3 years to be involved with it. But I mean, like, those guys for a long time before that were just, you know, making it happen. And like, you know, I'm lucky to come into this and just be able to like
Be a part of something special.
contribute to, yeah, exactly. It's history.
I'm
really,
happy to
you know?
see my boy there because I saw him. Well, he saw me come up because he's older than me, but we watched each other. You know what I mean? And it's just such a pleasure. Like I was so happy that from a vision that I had, you know, putting the whole Plattenberg thing together when I was a kid, and you know, like he always believed in me, he always supported
sure.
me, you know what I mean? And you know, that's why I was so happy to, you know, if I could help bring him on to DKD, and then everything evolved into where it is now.
Man.
I think things are unfolding amazing for Montreal.
Yeah.
I think things have been unfolding unbelievably great.
It's
for
a
the
totally
rest of
different
Canada.
city now than when it was back then. You know, like
and I think it's an exciting time to be in this business.
No doubt.
You know, and a lot of people are grumpy, like, oh, it's not like how it was. Well, nothing is how it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Life moves forward, never
Well
backwards.
said. Well said.
You know, and yeah, man, shout out to you for everything you've done.
Dude.
Everything you've contributed to hip hop and
Of
to the
course.
scene, to Montreal. This gentleman is as Montreal as smoke meat when it was a nickel. That's my dad's story. Everyone's dad has that story about a nickel smoke meat
yeah.
and a 10-cent cherry cola. And
Got to work uphill both ways.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So shout out to Pat, aka Pat Rec, catching wreck at the festivals, no longer the ones and twos,
no longer the ones and twos.
doing his thing.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much for
thank you
being,
so much.
and you know,
Yeah,
you're
man.
definitely welcome. You know, as a mainstay.
For sure, man.
You know, guest.
This guy's
host.
ever on vacation. Maybe I can come in and sit.
You
in,
might have
you
to
know,
go
like-
on a vacation.
I want a round two. We're not done.
Okay,
We're gonna bring you back
round
100%.
two,
Thank you
round
so
two.
much for
Give me
coming.
a year or two.
We're gonna lock it down like this. It's your boy Bless. I got my man Pat, aka Pat Rec.
Brap.
Brat, aka Brat. My man, let me know. No joke. I'm gonna let you know. All jokes aside, this is the Moment of Truth podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. You know what it is every week. Make sure you keep it locked.
Yeah, represent one time on the M.I.C.